it was a ugly, ugly weekend of baseball for both of the National League West's top two teams. I'm, of course, talking about the San Diego Padres and the Los Angeles Dodgers. But we're going to start in San Diego, where the Mariners were visiting the Padres, and that meant Julio Rodriguez got together with his countryman, Fernando Tatis Jr. I don't know if they work on the farm together, Nika.
Maybe.
We know Fernando likes to work on the farm. Julio, I'm not so sure. But nevertheless, here they are exchanging Victus bats with some kind of artwork featuring them on it. I thought this was really cool and a fun little exchange before the game. We've seen players swapping jerseys before games.
Did they swap jerseys at one point too?
I've never seen them swap jerseys.
Oh, okay.
Fernando and Dansby Swanson swapped jerseys a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was fun. And yeah, I just think it's good to see Fernando sort of back in the good graces of the baseball establishment, if you will, doing things like this. I think he had a little bit of a punishment from being part of the marketing team with the stain of the PED suspension, of course, but that's a long way in the past now, and things are going better. So here we go. What was not going good was the Padres offense this weekend, and we'll skip to the end here on Sunday. It's Randy Arozarena doing his signature pose right on our field, Petco Park. It was ugly. We get swept all three games. For the second time this year at home, we've got swept. First by the Rays, and now by the Mariners in this like new fake Vetter Cup promotion. We're not big fans of this, by the way. Eddie Vedder is a Cubs fan. Yeah. I've known he was a Cubs fan because I'm a Cubs fan for a long time. So the fact that this whole rivalry now revolves around Eddie Vedder's name is kind of a real reach. You know, you talk about reacher. This is a reach right here.
They could have made something with the Pacific Coast rivalry or something.
Yeah,
that would make more sense.
I think a lot of people were left scratching their heads, at least from the Padres' perspective, about whether or not this should be a real thing or not going forward. And it's the first one, and I understand it has good intentions behind it, but it wasn't landing with the audience. I'll just put it that way.
Overreach.
Marketing people, man. I tell you that someone came up with this idea and they ran with it like it was a great thing, and it's totally inauthentic.
Yeah.
It would be more appropriate for it to be in the Cubs' hands, to be honest. So, all right. Well, there was a reason why the Padres lost all these games this weekend, and that's because they were 0 for 21 with runners in scoring position. This is Marty Caswell from Sporting Trib, which covers Southern California and I think part of Arizona and Las Vegas as well. This says, wretched weekend for the Padres, who heard some boos after the final out for the second straight losing homestand. Swept by the Mariners, scored 1 run in 3 straight games, and went 0 for 21 with runners in scoring position. Bury the Vetter Cup in a time capsule or launch it to the moon. I'm going to go with the latter. I don't even want anyone to find it in the future. I really don't. I think there's more of a chance that we won't go back to the moon. It's hollow anyway. If you shoot it far enough, it'll just go right into the middle of it, and no one will ever see it again.
And it will ring forever. The moon.
With Eddie Vedder?
Yeah. You throw the cup to the moon, and it will ring.
Well, if it rings in Pearl Jam, that would be something.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Maybe that would draw out some extraterrestrial life, everybody.
Maybe.
Well, right. Who is singing over there on that satellite? I don't know who said this, Jackson Merrill or Michael King. I'm going to go with Jackson Merrill. But the quote says, just got to flush it and put it behind us. Go to a new series and dominate.
Okay, great advice.
I think it's Jackson Merrill. But this says Jackson Merrill and Michael King on being swept by the Mariners and confidence in the offense amid struggles with runners in scoring position. So, this is something I saw talked about a lot on social media circles this weekend, and a lot of Padres fans jumping off the bridge. They're 27-18, which I feel like is probably way better than most people thought we would be at this point. The problem we started 15-4. So when you look at the record since then, it's like what, 12-16? Not so great.
Yeah.
I'm half in and half out on this as far as my concern level goes, because I remember distinctly last season in June until the All-Star break, the Padres lost 5 games, count them, 5 games, 3 different times in a row. 5 games in a row, 3 different times. That's a lot of punishment to endure. And I remember being like sad about it at the time, and I didn't think we were for a real team. And then we came out of the All-Star break and were red hot until the end of the season, 44-17, I believe, to make it all the way to 93 wins. And
It's a roller coaster ride this season.
it is. And people need to remember and remind themselves that.
You too.
Definitely. I mean, I've been better since the Suarez blown save against the Angels last week, because that one was a tough one to watch. But
I agree.
these offensive struggle games, it's going to happen. You go through ups and downs throughout a season. We've seen a lot of concern about slug and about approach for the Padres and things like that. Here, let's look at the next slide. This is Mike Schilt. He was talking after the game, but I just wanted to mention this quote here. It says, quote, "I'm not sitting here saying it's easy, but I'm not going to alibi it either. There's no concern on my part at all." Well, I'm just going to ask you, Nika, are you concerned at all about what you saw from the Padres offense so far this season as a whole, let's say?
My concern, to a degree, because I still think it's a little early to to say whether their season is over or not. They do need to shake up things up. They need to move things around a little bit in their lineup. They not produce as much as they was as we saw them at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think when you go back and look at how they were grinding out their at-bats earlier on in the season, it seemed like they were fighting every pitch, and they were playing this Mike Schilt ball that everyone was even dubbing it, so to speak. And it doesn't seem like they've been upholding their full end of the bargain lately, where it's like, yeah, they're just going through the motions at the plate, and they're not necessarily, well, we've seen Jackson Merrill like extending his strike zone, which is very unorthodox, but they're just not grinding out good at bats. And you need everyone on board in order for this offense, I feel like, to be successful.
I think some of the injuries played into their mentality as a team, and now they don't seem to click on all cylinders as a team. Some of them are pressing more. Some of them are not being as good as they could be at this moment in the season.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And so I got this idea from the Cubs and from the Dodgers because, their teams really don't have a lot of trouble scoring. We did see the Dodgers get shut out last weekend in Arizona one game, but that is a rare thing for the Dodgers. So it's not, but it just shows you that these things do happen, even to the greatest offense ever assembled on God's green earth, everybody.
All right. It happens.
No, it does happen. So, but one thing I think the Padres should do and emulate, like the Cubs and like the Dodgers, is they should put their best 3 bats 1, 2, and 3. And so for me, the big change would be to switch Merrill and Arise in the batting order. I would move Jackson Merrill into the number 2 spot and have it be Tatis, Merrill, and Machado, just like Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman, just like PCA, Tucker, and Suzuki. There's a reason why those teams are batting these people in this order. It's to get them as many at-bats as they can, not just throughout the game, but throughout the course of an entire season. That's going to add up. The number 1 hitter on your team gets 20 more at-bats over the course of a season than the number 2 hitter. And this continues all the way down. So that means Jackson Merrill in the 4 spot is getting like 80 less at-bats than
versus
Tatis. And
Yeah.
And so I don't want to take anything away from Arise. This isn't actually about Arise. This is a compliment to Arise because I feel like you could move him almost anywhere in the order, kind of, and still get Luis Arise. But I also feel like Luis Arise would do well hitting with more men on base and maybe even make himself more valuable as an RBI run producer. And this is someone named Luis Analysis that I found on X through my scrolling adventures. And I want to give a shout out to this person because they are posting some excellent threads and content every day. Make sure you go and follow Luis Analysis. I noticed that he has a whole thread about Luis Arise, but for our purposes and for our conversation, I wanted to clip these two slides that show he's a really clutch hitter, and he has a knack for performing well in clutch situations. 352 batting average and almost 900 OPS in quote-unquote high-leverage situations, and 366 and 876 OPS with runners in scoring positions. So this is a man that does very well when runners are on base and when the game is on the line. And so I don't think moving him down in the order is a bad thing if he can be put in a position to hit with more people on base. I'm for that.
Luis Ariz has always been hitting at the beginning. He never hit in the middle of the lineup. He was always either number 1 or number 2. I don't remember him ever being a little lower in the lineup.
Well, he has been, and we're going to see that in the next slide. But so it's pretty funny. He has this batting average and OPS in these high leverage situations and with runners in scoring position, but he's only ever had 69 RBIs as a career high for a season. And he's arguing he could clean up a lot more if he were moved down in the order. And I kind of agree. He's not the first player you think of when you think of a cleanup hitter, but I think he could clean up for this lineup. And I also want to say, I think Jackson Merrill runs better behind Tatis than Arise does. And you can get a couple of decent legs on base. You know, they can run around the bases a little bit faster than Arise can. And that's not true. Taking anything away from Arise, but Arise should be driving them home then.
Yeah. He's not the quickest.
Even Manny
fastest,
runs better when he gets going than Arise does.
Yeah.
He's a little taller.
That's true. I think putting him in number 4 will have a better chance of success for the Padres.
I do too. So this is the one change I'd like to see the lineup make over the course of the season, and hopefully there's not too much politics about it. You know, Arise seems like a team player.
He's not Soto saying, I got to bet third or second always.
Correct. So now Merrill's been in a little bit of a slump. He was 4 for 23 at the plate this past week with 7 strikeouts. That's kind of uncharacteristic from him. Yeah. Still not enough to land him on the cold list, though. So it wasn't all doom and gloom, but hopefully he stops chasing as much. And, you know, he had a few bad breaks at the beginning of last week. Nika, do you want to switch to the next slide? Because here, Luis continued his thread analysis, and he even says he would be an atypical 3-4-5 hitter. He's talking about Arise here. He would be an atypical 3-4-5 hitter, but his numbers in these spots are fantastic. Batting third, a 356 batting average with a 403 on base and a 475 slug. Batting fourth, a 282 average, a 361 on base, and a 388 slug. And batting fifth, a 376 average, a 437 on base percentage, and a 441 slug. Wow. I don't think it really matters where you put this guy in the lineup. As you can see, he's batted in all the spots during his major league career at one point or the other. I don't know how many players ever have that happen to them.
It seems to work better for him when he is like 4th or 5th.
Yeah, he's like a secret weapon almost waiting to be unlocked and find maybe this major league value that people criticize him for. You know, a lot of people think Luis Arise doesn't put up enough WAR, wins above replacement, to warrant his praise, I guess. But if he started knocking in a hell of a lot more runs, I bet that would change in a hurry.
Yeah.
So, we'll have to wait and see how this situation evolves. I'm a fan of making this switch. I think you need to put Jackson Merrill in the 2-hole and have it be Tatis, Merrill, Machado, and let Arise start to come in and clean it up.
I agree with you. That's a good analysis.